I'm the Secretary General of the Association of African Development Finance Institutions. First, let me use this opportunity to thank ICR Facility for inviting me to this conference. And I also want to acknowledge that we've been privileged to benefit from the ICR Facility. My organization, they've supported us in capacity building for members, especially in the climate and gender finance thematic area. We're also privileged to benefit from their support in developing a knowledge hub for the World Federation for Development Finance Institution during our tenure as the Secretariat, the ATFI as the Secretariat. So we do not take this for granted, so we appreciate all those support. So coming to the conversation of today, why does it matter? Yesterday, we've all been discussing about issues related to access to finance, and finance is at the crux of our conversation yesterday and also today. If you look at it, we're able to establish that about 1.7 trillion is the financing gap globally for women-led businesses. And within the African continent, the AFAWA, Affirmative Finance Action for Women, identified that $49 billion annually is required to fill the gap in terms of financing women-led business in Africa. So we also know that filling this gap will add trillions of dollars to the global GDP and to GDP of our various constituencies. So this is why it matters, and we'll be looking at the financial products we have, the financial services we've been deploying to see how effective this has been useful in solving this problem, in bridging this gap, and if there is need for us to rethink those financial products and services and come up with more innovative solutions in terms of financial services we deploy. So to dissect this, we have colleagues that will be joining me on the panel to look at this. I will bring them on board now. So we have Mr. Valence Kimenei. Sorry if I don't pronounce your name very well. He's the Director of Financial Sector Development and the Inclusion Department, National Bank of Rwanda. Please, if you're around, please welcome them. Then Otelo, Oti Chilume. I like calling her Oti Chilume. She's the gender focal person, Citizen Entrepreneurial Development Agency, Botswana. Please join us. Then we have Ms. Chitundu Malunda. She's a product development specialist with over a decade experience in development financing sector. So please join us. Then we'll bring on board Ms. Anna Mendiola. She's the CEO and president of Federated State of Microsenior Development Bank. Then the last but not the least, my brother, Mr. Debruje Onesi Lawani. He's from the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria. So please welcome them as they will help us to look at this issue from their various perspectives. I also want to point out that this engagement, this interaction is at the crux of our being here today. So we'll expect to have interaction from the audience because we are looking for solutions so that at the end of the day, it will not be story as usual. So before we'll give opportunity to our panelists to, rub mind to say something regarding the topic of our conversation, maybe 3 to 5 minutes each to each of the panelists. Then we'll go to the specific questions. So I will start with you, Mr. Valens.
Thank you, Cyril, and good afternoon, everybody. First, thank you to ICR for inviting me to speak to this conference. It's a very important topic. How do we improve access to finance for women? In Rwanda, we just completed our 7-year development program, the National Strategy for Transformation, NST1. And when you read that program, most of all the pillars in that program, be it, expanding industries, driving private sector growth, increasing productivity, you see that access to finance is an indirect or direct enabler of these pillars. And access to finance for women, you cannot achieve all these development targets if women are lagging behind in terms of access to finance. So that's why in our development program, financial inclusion has been close to our hearts. And we've gone the journey of financial inclusion. As I speak, we are just getting numbers of our financial inclusion from our financial inclusion survey. And the numbers are telling us, that formal access to financial services has increased from 77% to 92%. That's adults that access financial services. That number has increased from 77% to 92%. So we don't only target all adults, but there is a specific, approach to women. And the plan is really to eliminate the gender gap in terms of accessing financial services. There is no justification as to why men should access financial services more than women. So the plan is that by the next 5 years, the gender gap should be 0. What's the progress so far? The gender gap reduced from 7% in 2020. Now in 2024, we are at 4%. And we believe that in the next 5 years, this should be at 0. Because women make up more than 55% of operation is women. They own like 45% of businesses, including small businesses. So there's no way you can leave out these people and think you can achieve your development programs. So that's why the government of Rwanda is very keen to improve access to finance for women. So what are we doing at the Central Bank of Rwanda, but also in partnership with other government agencies? One thing that we focused on, and I think someone alluded to it here, I think the ladies from the World Bank, is availing sex disaggregated data. What you can't measure, you can't improve. I think it was well said. We are here talking about this topic, how do we increase access to finance for women? Because we know that it's a problem that we live with. How do we know that it's a problem? Because there is data, there is information. But we need clear data, sex disaggregated data, and it's lacking in many countries. So that has been our number one priority as central bank. From the financial service providers that we regulate and supervise, we've deliberately established a SUPTEC, our electronic data house that fetches data in real time from financial service providers. Our templates have been improved to be gender sensitive, to provide gender sex disaggregated data. Now we are able to know how many women borrow vis-a-vis the men, how many women have an account, how many women have an insurance, how many women have pension. So that's the starting point. And really, I think policy should be informed by this information. The other thing that we are focusing on is that we are trying to work with the NGOs on, reaching out to informal saving groups. We realize that in Africa, many women are served in the informal sector. These are saving groups of 10 to 24 women that come together, sit and, are able to save and lend amongst themselves. So, and these models have been working in Africa. We call them tontines. They lend amongst themselves. And you know what? Non-performing loan is at 0 because they are able to pay back. The banks are here complaining that, women is a risky segment. But there's proof that they have been lending amongst themselves and being able to pay back. So what we've done, we've reached out to NGOs, Care International and World Vision, and we've tried to profile and map these saving groups. If you go to the Central Bank of Rwanda website, you will find a savings group map that has basic data on where these saving groups are and the amount of savings that they have, amount of borrowings that they have lent amongst themselves. For information, the last survey that we did last year, they have lent amongst themselves, that outstanding loan, around 50 billion Rwandan francs. So we had a workshop with the banks and we were presenting to them these results, and the banks were so surprised. And we went ahead and did a survey in these saving groups. We asked them, why do you prefer to work in the informal setup than the FSPs? They said, you know what? Conduciveness is a factor. Then documentation. Then mobility. You have to travel and, they gave us a couple of things that now we presented to FSPs, that this 50 billion that is out of your reach because of these things. So, and so that's another thing we've done. Another thing we've done, we've issued guideline on women financing. We are a regulator, and one thing I asked Cyril when preparing this panel, don't ask me what products we have, because regulator, central bank, we don't have money that we lend. We supervise financial service providers. So we don't twist their arms when they don't lend to women, because we believe they are best positioned and knowledgeable in terms of allocating capital efficiently in the economy. But sitting back, we see a disconnect between how much they lend to women, and we decided to issue a guideline. We worked with the IFC, thank you IFC, to design guidelines. We did a diagnostic study on the challenges that women face when they are accessing financing, and then we collected best practice from other countries and issued a guideline. It has high-level principles on what financial service providers should consider if they want to increase access to finance for women. So the other thing is, we are trying to drive a culture of using alternative data in lending, simply because when a bank is lending, it wants a credit history. But women in rural areas, they don't have a credit history. If I don't have a bank account, why do you ask me a credit history? I've never borrowed in a bank. Why should you ask me a credit history? But guess what? These women have a mobile money account. They sell vegetables and they receive money on their mobile money wallet. Now, this is data that is not used by these financial service providers. So we're trying to build a culture of using alternative data. I'll give you an example. Let's say a woman has been supplying milk to a milk collection center. So this is what we've done, and a couple of things. Maybe I'll deep dive into most of these things. Let me give a chance to my colleagues here.
Okay, thank you very much. You've actually touched on a number of issues, the importance of working with data, working with NGOs, groups, saving groups, and the guideline that the central bank has issued. One thing I like, which we mentioned, is as a central bank, you guys are not interfering in the way the financial institutions are allocating resources. Of course, bearing in mind that finance and resources should be allocated from a very efficient perspective, which is one of the things I want us to take as we look for money and deploy them to this women sector. Then the use of alternative data. So thank you very much. Let's go over to Uti and then get your perspective on this issue.
Afternoon, everybody. And thank you, Cyril and ICR, for giving me this opportunity to share my country experience with you. And before I start, I would like to thank ADFI, the Association of African DFIs, for introducing my DFI to ICR. We've done quite a number of interesting projects with ICR. And should Cyril give me an opportunity during this panel, I would like to share our experience with the ICR. I'm from Botswana, and Botswana, as you all know, it's a country with a small population. But what I think most of you are not aware of is how Botswana has really advanced in terms of gender mainstreaming. And it's one of the countries at the top in terms of the number of businesses that are owned by women. And this didn't come as a surprise or it wasn't luck. Our country has done quite a lot in terms of mainstreaming women and encouraging entrepreneurship amongst women. One of the ways in which the country has made sure that they mainstream women and support women-owned enterprises was setting up development finance institutions. We have 3 in our country, which is the Citizen Entrepreneurial Development Agency, where I come from. There we loan money, we provide financial services to SMMEs. And then we have the National Development Bank, which also lends to not only SMMEs, but large businesses. And then finally, we have the Botswana Development Corporation, which lends to large businesses. Now, coming down to CEDA, which is the Citizen Entrepreneurial Development Agency, which I'm representing today. CEDA was set up by an act of parliament. Our main mandate is to provide financial and non-financial services to citizen-owned SMMEs. And now when it comes to gender financing, I am proud to share with you that over 60% of our portfolio, which is the businesses that we have funded, are owned by women. And how we got to this impressive rate of women-owned businesses is our deliberate efforts in tilting. Okay, sorry about that. I was saying, in my DFI, we did not, unlike other DFIs, we didn't particularly create products that we call for women owned, for women only. We have, what we've done, we've tried to make our funding landscape suitable and conducive for women. We've done this through a couple of initiatives. The first being, we introduced flexible collateral conditions for women-owned businesses. As you all know, the traditional way of lending, every bank would ask you for security. And we know that the first point of call will be traditional security being land or property. So what we've done as CEDA is, if a woman comes with a business idea, we don't look at whether they have security or not. We look at the merits of the business. If the business is viable and it shows sustainability, we'll fund that business, whether you have security or not. Of course, there is a riskiness in lending, and we mitigate that by using the assets that we finance as collateral for the businesses. In this way, more and more women are coming forth for our products, because you know traditionally, especially in African communities, as much as in Botswana women have the right to own land and property, we know that traditionally women, they don't have that much control over the properties that they own. It's the males in the families that control the properties. And even if it's a single woman, even when they have property, they're always thinking of their family's well-being, that if I use my property to secure this loan, what if I default? It means that the bank is going to repossess this property, and then my children will be homeless. So we took that headache away from them to say, you know what, let's not gamble with your family assets. Let's use the assets that we finance you as security, and then we go for personal surety as well. And then the other thing that we've done, we have subsidized interest rates for women-owned businesses. And the other thing that you should know, again, our DFI provides below prime interest rates for the businesses that we fund. But for women, we even go further, we discount further if you're a woman, especially if the business that you want financed falls within what we call the priority sectors, being agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, information and technology, and the like. And also, we have flexible repayment terms for women-owned businesses. And most of the women-owned businesses that we finance are within the micro scale, where you find these are tuck shop owners, these are people selling airtime, vegetables on the streets, and micro farmers. So what we do is we look at how your business is structured, and then we structure the repayments according to the cash flow cycle of your business. And then again, we know women tend to shy away from financial institutions. So our marketing is targeted to them. We don't wait for them to come. When it comes to women, we are not demand driven. We go out to where they are, to the women's business associations. That's where we sell our products. And then again, we use successful stories of the businesses that we financed to appeal to other women to say, look at this woman. We funded her from, for example, she started a tutoring center, and through our funding, she now runs a fully fledged school. And if other women can see that, then they will be, interested to come and apply for our services. But that being said, there's still a long way to go. We are still looking at other initiatives where we can get women now to look for big ticket loans to expand their businesses and to formalize. And I believe we'll have an opportunity during the panel for me to share more on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Oti. I like the idea that you guys took a deliberate step with a view to expanding access to finance to women. And then without knowing it, that you guys were already having about 60% in your portfolio for women, creating conducive condition for lending to women, and then de-emphasizing the issue of security. The idea of interest subsidy is also noted, and the flexibility in payment. Maybe by the time we come to question and answer, we'll begin to learn how effective and efficient these some of these conditions, interest subsidy, flexibility has been able to impact in terms of the return from these loans. So Chitundu, can we get your perspective? Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much, Cyril. I hope I'm audible. Is that okay? Is that okay? Okay. Okay, so my name is Chitundu Malunda from Zambia, and today we're tasked with discussing the role and the importance of the relevant products that are on the market, and also how to establish new and innovative products. So I think the first thing that we need to understand, or the first thing that we need to recognize, is the fact that finance plays a very key role in growth and development of our economies. And so the financial sector is particularly seated in a very critical position to enhance that economic growth. Taking that into consideration, we want to also remember that in financial services, in financial provision, there is a segment that is not exactly carrying on with everybody else, and that is financial solutions for the female folk. I think establishing the fact that the female folk, that the women are extremely productive, and especially in productive sectors, is very important. And so establishing and developing products that meet and address challenges that are affecting women and access to finance for women is also very important. Another thing that we need to establish is institutions like ICR have not only brought us here to discuss this afternoon, but they're also doing great work in ensuring that access to finance for women is necessitated and is brought out as a priority for economies and for institutions in our various jurisdictions. So I bet the call to establish and develop key and cardinal products is something that is seated at the cornerstone, but targeted products is also important. So products that are specific to jurisdiction and sectors, and not only sectors, but subsectors as well, is something that needs to be taken into consideration. I don't want to say much, but yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. Maybe we'll go to Anne. Let's get the perspective from Anne.
Thank you, Cyril. My name is Anna Mendiola from the Federated States of Micronesia. I know a lot of you don't know where that is. It's somewhere in the middle of the North Central Pacific. I'm here thanks to ICRF for bringing me here to participate in this. It's a learning process for me. You know, the Development Bank was established 45 years ago, but it never had any data segregation to see whether it's assisting women. Up until 2005, that's when we started at least taking into consideration the number of loans going to women. But that's the only statistics we have. There is no other data to help us analyze whether we're actually helping the women. The women are mostly the ones running businesses. Even if the husband is the borrower, they are the managers and the person that runs the business to make sure it's successful. So in the government's effort to assist, given that there is, like everybody else, collateral requirement of land, they established a law and then created a secure website, secure transaction website, where it allows us to take movable properties and register it. Because originally you can take it, but then it's not registered anywhere. So you can sell it without anybody knowing. So the secure transaction website was created. The bank also eliminated the need for land for small loans, 10,000 and below, but still it was not attracting the women to the bank. So we started looking at maybe there is something that we're not doing. We felt that everything is equally available to men and women if they want, whether it's a small business, large business, they're not coming. So that's when we started seeking technical assistance. How do we mainstream our program to get women, to bring them in? Because even though the number of loans increased after the secure transaction website, the entire portfolio increased. So the percentage remained at 4% per year to women, before and after. Then we were given a grant from the Asian Development Bank, which requires at least 50% to women. But still, you know, we really tried to find women to give them the loan, and they're still not coming in. So with the technical assistance from ICRF, they reviewed our policies, our procedures, do a lot of interviews internally and even with the other stakeholders. And we realized that our policies are actually gender blind. And so now they've helped us with strategy. We created a new policy that really addressed the need of the island women. And now we have strategic plan, action plan. They've assisted us with some gender lens lending guideline. And I've just recently hired a gender specialist to help implement what we've set out in the action plan and to make sure that we increase our assistance to women. And with that, we also changed our customer value proposition. Before we said we're your partner in business, and we felt that's too masculine. So we changed it to transforming lives. And we introduced unsecured loan, which enable women to borrow. And we focus, like she said, on the cash flow. And we use whatever we're purchasing for them as securities. So that's the effort we're trying to make in order to bring in more of the island women into business. So I will finish here and let others do the, thank you.
Thank you very much. And in your case, the issue basically is not finance, but how to bring in these women into the financial sector. So your own case is even a bit lighter. We'll come back to some of the issues you mentioned, the asset registry and how efficient, how it has worked when we come to responses to questions. But let me get your perspective, Mr. Museni.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cyril. And my name is Onesi Lawani. I work with the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria. It is an agency established by the federal government to midwife the sustainable growth of the micro, small, and medium enterprises back home. And MSMEs in Nigeria number almost about 40 million. The total MSMEs we have in Nigeria about 40 million. And women account for over about 41% of the total number of SMEs. Now, we had a national survey that showed that almost 5 out of 8 entrepreneurs, not women now, indicated that they've not had access to usable funds over time. And when you ask them what is your topmost challenge, they'll tell you is access to finance. Now, this study also showed that less than 25% of women have owned enterprise or women-led enterprises have been able to access funding from the formal sectors. And even when the funds are targeted at them, we had an experience, and that was when ICR had to step in. We had an experience where a grant really was provided by the federal government for SMEs. And we just found out that less than 20%, not up to 20% of women got that grant. And the federal government, on its own wisdom, decided, okay, let's the second cohort be entirely dedicated to women. We found out also that women were not forthcoming. You had men or husbands writing the grant and using the name of the wives, or boyfriend, girlfriends, relationships, doing the same thing. And when the grant came, we had issues. We had marriages breaking down. We had relationships breaking down. And we are not an agency to break down relationships. We are interested in building relationships. And we had to engage ICR. Please come and help us. Conduct a study. What is the problem? Why are women not coming out to take up opportunities essentially designed for them? I want to use this opportunity to thank ICR for the study is still going on, but a preliminary report is out, which I'm going to share, and the picture is gloomy. It's not too different from what has been said here. The issue bordered on this perception that by women that taking a loan is bad for their business. Generally, taking loan is bad for their business. They also had this issue that banks generally have this discriminatory perception of women in business. So they really don't want to fund enterprises owned by women. Rather, they would prefer to deal with men. Then there's also this influence of family members. Especially in the northern part of our country, you rarely see the women. They are mostly indoors. And if they want to do anything, they need the permission of their husbands to take any sort of such decisions. Then the securitization of these loans is also an issue. The forms that the women are asked to fill, and even the demand for some sort of collateral, things that some of all these women don't have. So like we'll be talking about this landed property. How many women actually own landed property? And there are some landed property that the banks will not even discuss anything with you because because of the location. Then also, women-owned businesses or women-led entrepreneurs are sometimes required to bring guarantors that are top civil servants, and this becomes a very big challenge for most women-owned businesses. Then the KYC process is a cumbersome, filling of different forms or whatnot. Then there's also the issue of corruption. We can't take that from some funders. Want to use that opportunity to request for some percentage of what the woman is going to get, so before they can approve some of all those issues. Then you can't run away from the fact that the interest rate charges on these loans are quite expensive. Then also the tenor. The tenor, most SMEs are looking for long-term loans, and what the banks are giving or offering is short-term. So there's a mismatch, and that's some of the reasons. Then there's also the issue of intimidation by some of all those loan sharks. They tend to intimidate women more because they feel they're at their mercy. Then there's also the negative experiences of peers. Some women have been able to access funds, and maybe the bad experience that they share with some other people. So when I hear that this was what happened to this woman, I would not want to touch a loan with a long pole. Then there's also this criminalization of defaulters. A woman, a typical woman, would not want her name or the name of her family to be mentioned in anything that will not bring that further degrades them. So then education, financial literacy is a challenge that needs to be addressed if women had to have access to funding. Then there's also the issue of sexual harassment. We can't run away from it. Most women that go to banks or to some of all these funding institutions, the officers want to take that advantage to start sexually harassing some of all those women. Then finally, some women have beautiful programs or product or proposals. And when they discuss with you, you see that, oh, there are potentials here. But when they meet with these funders or when they meet the very imposing buildings of the bankers, they get intimidated. And even the beautiful ladies, well-dressed, perfumed. So sometimes they lose out on what they are even going to discuss with some of all these funders. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You've raised some pertinent issues, which I believe that the bankers that are here with us will be speaking to. But quite interesting to know the issue of the cultural issue, which we have tried to raise, cultural and social issues, and the approach of the financial institution to these women when they are preparing to lend to them. These are some of the things we would like the colleagues here that are actually practitioners to respond to or make comment when we get the opportunity for them to contribute. I will go to specific questions, and I will start with OT. We are aware that ICR facility supported CEDA in developing a framework for formalizing businesses, which is especially relevant for women-led businesses. Can you share this with us and how this has helped in advancing lending to women and then building a better relationship with women-led businesses? Can you share that with us?
Thank you, Cyril. The study is quite new. We are still in the early stages of implementing the findings and the recommendations. But just to share with everyone, I did say our portfolio is more than 60% are women-owned businesses. But what I didn't clearly say was that of this 60% and more, the majority are at a micro and small scale. So as much as we are assisting a lot of women, we also notice that there's a disparity between the sizes of the businesses that we are finding for women and that of men. Men tend to come for funding for bigger businesses. So what we have decided now is to see how we can assist our women to grow their businesses. And with the assistance that we've been giving them over the years, they're not starting from zero. They're already somewhere. Now we are saying we want to show them their full potential. We want them to formalize, as many are in the informal sector. So we partnered with ICR to do a study of how we can assist these women to formalize. And the single purpose of the study was to have an external eye, which will help us understand the challenges and the resulting needs of the women business owners in our country. And then for this external eye to assist us on how we can assist them. I mean, having been founded in 2001, we have been dealing with women for over 20 years. And there are things that we know about them. There are things that we've tried. But in every situation, there's always that blind spot. So we wanted the ICR to help us clear that blind spot for us to move forward. And then the objectives of this study were quite simple. We had 3 or 4 objectives. The first one being, we wanted the ICR to document the challenges faced and the needs of women entrepreneurs. We also wanted them to help CEDA develop a framework which may lead to us, for the first time, having a women-only financial product. And we also wanted ICR, which is very important, for them to help us capacitate not only our staff members, but other critical stakeholders, being the government departments that we work with, like your ministries of entrepreneurship, the Ministry of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and we have our sister agency being the local enterprise agency, which provides non-financial services to entrepreneurs. So capacitating all these stakeholders would help us in future to be able to serve our entrepreneurs better. And then also, we wanted to have a clear stakeholder map of who fits where within the entrepreneurial space in our country. And then now you'd ask, why would we want to formalize? What is formalization of businesses? In the context of my country, when we say a business is formalized, is when a business has registered a company with the Register of Companies, and the business should acquire the relevant licenses that they need to operate the businesses that they're in. If it's a retail, you'd have a retail license. If it's a manufacturer, you'd have, the relevant license for you to manufacture whatever it is that you're manufacturing. And also, what is key is for that business to register for tax so that it can contribute to the economic development of the country. And also, what may seem minute is for that business, minute but so important, is for the business to have a bank account and also register for insurance, insure your property, insure your products, and insure your human capital. So this study took less than a year, and its findings were, the most critical finding was that the study found that the businesses that we had earmarked for formalization were too small, and most of them were underfunded, undercapitalized. So for them to start doing all those things that I mentioned, like have insurance, open bank accounts, register licenses and the like, were just too far-fetched for them. So you'd have maybe a one-woman business where, the woman would ask you, if I'm going to register for insurance, it means a chunk of my profit would be going towards paying premiums. I can't afford that. So that's one of the findings, that formalization became difficult for most of them because they were too small and undercapitalized. And then the other finding was that our businesses found that formalization is just a lot of work. And nowadays, with the advent of technology, everything being done online, some people don't even have access to computers and a fully functioning Wi-Fi or internet connection for them to be there in the tax registration systems, registering for tax, or for the company registration, registering the companies. Or even if they had other means, like, go to the offices to register, that takes a lot of their time. So they thought this is not worth it. And then the other one was a lot of informal businesses thought that if they are formalized, then they would have access to the public procurement system where they are able to tender for public jobs. Now, some after formalizing, the study found that they still couldn't get the tenders that they thought they would get. Now, the recommendations of the study, or the areas of interventions that the study found out, was that, I'll start with the one of public procurement, the tender system. They were like, as much as one would have formalized, they believe now they qualify, there is need for the whole system to interrogate the public procurement system, see what the impediments are, what is prohibiting these women from winning tenders, or just being able to access that system and try their luck. And then the other recommendation was, for someone to formalize, they need to have the mindset of running a business as a profitable entity, unlike a survivalist enterprise, because they found that most women go into business as a means of earning income for their families. So they never have the wish or the drive to grow their businesses into something bigger. So the ICR recommended that perhaps the country should start instilling the spirit of entrepreneurship to people from a young age. That way, one wouldn't just see entrepreneurship as a means to survive, but as a potential for them to start something great, a big business that is able to export outside, that is able to contribute to the economic development of the country. And then the other finding was that there's need to interrogate the formalization process. How do we make all these entities, like your taxman, the company registrar, how do we make sure the processes are simple enough or are not prohibitive for women-owned businesses? So those are the recommendations that came from ICR. But then again, they said, looking at the broader industry, looking at the broader entrepreneurship landscape of the country, there is need for the country, not just CEDA, but the country, to invest in a segregated data collection system, where it doesn't only benefit investment firms like financial institutions, but other stakeholders. Like your Ministry of Trade would need to know how many women are in business, how many people are in import or export business. So the data collection, and not just data collection, but segregated data collection, would be really beneficial for the country. And not just data collection in that form, but it has to be standardized. Whoever is collecting data, be it from CEDA or be it from a commercial bank, we use a standardized system so that it can then easily fit into the national database. And then they found that capacity building across would be really key, not just for financial institutions, but for government, for the entire business community, for the councils, which issue licenses, and other stakeholders. And then, least but not last, is monitoring and evaluation. The study found that after doing all these things, they should be monitoring. There should be someone or an entity somewhere which is monitoring all these things, so that we know that whatever it is that we are doing, are we still on the right track? And if there is need for improvement, where are we going to improve? So in a nutshell, that is our work with the ICR.
Okay. Thank you very much for the insight on this study. Let me go to Anna before I come to other panelists. You, in your earlier comment, you mentioned about asset registry, which is being used by your organization. Can you shed light on how this works, how the collaboration came, and how effective this has been in delivering service to the women?
Thank you, Cyril. As I mentioned, because of the difficulty of getting land to be security for loan, a lot of the lands are not surveyed and not titles. So the government passed a law creating a secure transaction website, and then you can register movable properties on the website, and anybody can look to make sure that a car or a freezer or a refrigerator is already mortgaged to a lending institution, so they would not willing to buy it from the borrower. So it gives the banks comfort in that they have a place to register their securities, and everybody is have access to the website. So you can just go in and see whether somebody's car is already mortgaged to somebody else, to the institutions. So it helped a lot in terms of our overall lending, but not necessarily increase the number of loans to women.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me go to Valence. We are aware that your bank, National Bank for Rwanda, published a strategy for financial inclusion. Could you please share with us the objective, especially with regards to women economic empowerment and gender, just briefly?
Yes, I'll be brief. The target is really to remove the gender gap from 4% where it is now to 0%, basically where a woman and a man, they have equal chances of accessing financial service. So that's the target. And many things have been said by my colleagues here, but two things that I have to mention, that we are asking financial service providers to be deliberate. You understand the issue, then what do you do? Do we see a spirit of increasing access to financing for women in your strategic plan, in your annual business plan? If I can't see that, then you're doing nothing. Can you set targets? Can you have it in your strategic plan and then work towards it? And here I have to emphasize that, there has to be a business case for financing women and women-led businesses. They shouldn't give out loans on compassionate, donor kind of. There should be a business case. And for you to have a business case, you need to do some research and understand the women, what they need. The other thing, very important, is having women representation in decision-making positions in financial service providers. We are happy to hear that there are increasing number of women CEOs in our financial sector, but how many women head the departments of credit? Most of the women are heads of HR. Can we have more women in decision-making departments of these financial service providers? even at, customer facing functions. A woman comes from a rural area, he finds a man wearing a jacket and a suit, speaking English. Can we have women in those roles? So a couple of things, but most of them have been mentioned by my colleagues here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's quickly go to Chitundu. Which approaches and instruments in your experience do you consider will work best in delivering service to women?
Okay. Thank you, Cyril. I think we need to take into consideration the most cost-effective approaches to financing. And I think if you go by innovation, especially now, we have several options that are available, and blended financing instruments are some of these options. So basically, where you will attract gender, rather female lending by sort of relaxing the terms of your lending, right? Include partners that will come in and bring innovative aspects to this particular type of lending. Of course, blended finance will blend commercial and concessional capital together, and then also include technical assistance to just handhold the projects that are being sponsored by this particular instrument to move forward. Also, I think there are a couple of countries in Africa, I think particularly 19 countries in Africa, that have established alternative market options. So these are through the capital markets. These are boards by the stock exchanges that are specifically targeting SMEs. And a lot of them are very deliberate to access capital for women economic empowerment. So those are options that can be used, and those are options that can be explored to increase access to finance. Of course, with going back to blended instruments, with blended instruments, there's need to take into consideration that one of the biggest challenges that women face, and I think that's something that has also been brought out and discussed on this panel, is the issue of security. So being very deliberate about including alternative security forms. Like, for instance, of course, you will have the movable asset registries that Anna was speaking about. And I think kudos to the World Bank for, I think, rolling out and driving that extensively, especially in Zambia. They've rolled out projects on establishing a movable asset registry. And then also taking forms of collateral that are unconventional, like guarantees, and establishing partnerships with organizations or institutions that can provide portfolio debt service buffers. So debt service buffers basically are, an institution will provide capital for a loan or a portfolio loan. And if that loan goes bad within a specific period of time, they then will be able to cover just the repayments. So those are instruments, those are options, those are alternatives for securitizations that need to be generally accepted by the financial market. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I come to you, Mr. Lawani, I think we should give, let's get comments, questions from the audience on what we've already discussed, and then we'll take it off from there. Please, question, comment from the conversation, suggestion on solution.
Good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Annette Benegusenga. I work with Rwanda Private Sector Federation, and I'm in charge of women entrepreneurs, youth, and persons with disabilities. First of all, I would like to thank our panelists for the nice discussion. I was very interesting to this discussion, because most of the challenges that our women entrepreneurs are facing is access to finance. So I heard what different institutions they are supporting, like how we do support our women entrepreneurs. We work closely with financial institutions, but maybe I would like to ask my sister from Botswana. You mentioned about what you're doing to assist or to help women entrepreneurs in your country. So I was somehow very interested to hear about how you, my first question, how do you inform, or how do these people, women entrepreneurs especially, know about what your service, what you're providing? Because here, I know most of the women entrepreneurs in different countries, they lack information in different institutions, what is available in different financial institutions. I know, like here in Rwanda, we have so many financial institutions. They have different windows for women entrepreneurs, but you find most of the women entrepreneurs, they don't know what is available. So how do you work closely with these? Do they have do you work with associations? Do they have like cooperatives? I don't know how you make them aware of what is available in your institution. My second question, sometimes you find these people, the women entrepreneurs, they have very nice ideas, but in terms of developing it on the paper or writing it, I mean in terms of project proposals, because they don't just come and then you give them money. They have to write the nice proposals. So do you avail technical and theoretical support to them so that they can access that money? Because here, like what we do in our cluster for women entrepreneurs, we work closely with those institutions. We have initiated what we call the Entrepreneurs Desk. It is a space where you come and help the women entrepreneurs. Here we have BDF, Business Development Fund. So they have also a window for women entrepreneurs and youth. So you come at that place and you help the women. If they have very good ideas, then maybe someone has a good idea, but she doesn't know how to write it. And the bank will look on what she has wrote, the vision and mission and objective of that project. So we support them to write those business proposals, those projects to be funded or to be submitted to the financial institutions so that they can have that money. So how do you help, or do you avail like technical? Yes, if you have this window for them, but do you really support them like to access that money in terms of technical support and theoretical support? My third question, I was asking, how do you really prepare them before you give this money? Remember, this is bank money, not their money. So they have, after all, they have to return the money. So we had some financial institutions that when they offer this money maybe for young entrepreneurs, especially the ready or the boys, you find they are going to use this money in their own businesses. So how do you prepare this? How do you prepare these women entrepreneurs so that they can use this money very well in their businesses? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have another hand over there.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Busola Falade. I represent the Development Bank of Nigeria. Thanks to the ICR facility and also to the panelists this afternoon for the insight that you've provided. My comments are twofold, and the first one is that we've analyzed the gaps that we have for women financing globally, and it seems that we have a lot of DFIs in the room. And those DFIs are doing a lot in terms of deliberately dedicating funding to women. However, I still see that the gap is still there because there's a lot of discussion in the public sector, but it is not really reflecting in the private sector. The private banks, although they want to do lending to women, are not as deliberate as the DFIs are. And the DFIs are able to allocate funding and capital, but the private sector banks are not able to do that as much as we want them to do it. And so I wanted the Bank of Rwanda, if I'm correct, to just give a little bit of insight into what you've done around getting your FSPs to be able to embrace some of these women banking products. Back in Nigeria, you would see a lot of women banking products. However, women expect that these products should be subsidized, meaning the interest rate should be subprime. And that is what we see that apply everywhere. There's is the problem, because most of the commercial banks, as much as they want to be able to do that, there's only a part of their capital they're able to use to do that, because their capital is expensive, they have to pay back and all of that. So what can be done really to ensure that we have a collaborative effort, both by DFIs, who are already doing a lot in the market, in conjunction with their private sector counterparts, who would actually be the ones to help in bridging this gap that we're talking about. So that's my first comment, and also maybe a question. My second comment is for Anna, right? Thanks for just giving us a bit of insight on the National Collateral Registry and what he has done in your country. I realize also that we have a lot of DFIs who have leveraged. We also have a National Collateral Registry in Nigeria. And as the Development Bank of Nigeria, we encourage it for most of our participating financial institutions to ensure that they leverage it to reduce the collateral burden for lending generally to MSMEs and for women especially. But what we realize is that we have a lot of DFIs leveraging that collateral center, but we still don't have the other practitioners, the bankers, using that platform. Maybe because it's not yet trusted and valued, because it's like 2 years old in Nigeria, or maybe for one reason or the other, they do not just see the realizability of that collateral registry. I just wanted you to maybe put one or two more context into it in terms of realizability in your country and how long it has been in existence, so that we can just take those lessons learned and take them back home and see what it is that we can do to get them to be able to use this. Because if you're able to do that, then you have a lot of collateral free lending, and women are then now being given more opportunities to be able to do that. We realize that actually in Nigeria, women own some kind of movable assets. They own gold, no matter how small. They own fabrics, and we've seen them bring them forward as some kind of collateral that they can use, which is very acceptable. But we don't see the banks, I mean the PFIs and the FSBs as they're called here in Rwanda, using that platform to be able to support women. So if you can just share a bit more experience, I think that would also help in terms of us knowing exactly what we can take back to our country and implement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we take one more question, then we allow the panelists to respond? Let's take from this table, if you don't mind.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm from BRD, Development Bank of Rwanda. My question goes to Chirume from Botswana, if I pronounce well the name. I'm really impressed by your portfolio, 60% owned by women. And I'm interested to know how that 60% of the portfolio owned by women is performing. Do you have those information? But also, you say that the majority of those women are micro SME. So my question is, do you prepare them before they get financed? Because if I understand well, they are startup, and if you are preparing them before financing, what kind of support you are providing? But also I'm wondering, as they are startup, micro SMEs, is it not too much for them to absorb the loans, all the support you provide? And I also want to know what type of financing are you providing to those SME? Is it short-term loan or long-term loan? Again, my third question, I wanted to know for how long are you implementing this 60% of the portfolio for women SME? And after answering for how long you are implementing, I wanted to know what are the challenges, and yes, what are the challenges you are facing, and how can you maybe advise other DFIs to increase the women portfolio? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's take these questions, then come back to the floor again. Oti, most of the questions are directed to you. We also have a question directed to Anna, and then to Valence from Central Bank of Rwanda. So the issues raised, looking at your portfolio, 60%, how are they performing? And then what type of financing are you providing for them? Also asked about challenges. Then another question was on how do you communicate your services to the women? And do you provide TA for them?
Thank you, ladies, for the questions. I'll start with the first one that was asked. How do we make sure the women entrepreneurs know about our products and services? Firstly, I would like just to say we have branches across the country. We have about 13 branches across the country, each representing a different district. And in addition to that, we have what we call mobile offices. These go across the country at any given time, providing service in places where we don't have offices. And then again, we have embarked on a robust marketing plan where we have a brand ambassador. The role of our brand ambassador is to sell our products and services through storytelling. So what the brand ambassador does, he goes around the country profiling different businesses, be it those, starting with those that are successful, of course, so that people know the type of businesses that we finance. And then also, he also shares experience of those that had challenges, so that incoming owners looking for funding would learn from those challenges. And then what is key for our women entrepreneurs, we have different women business associations in the country, with the mother association being called Women in Business Association. So in all these associations, we try to become, to be represented at CEDA. We provide advisory roles to these associations. That way, we work closely with the business owners in their own jurisdiction. So this way, they always know what is happening. Like, I would give an example. I myself am a member of the Africa Growth Opportunity Act, which is AGOA. It helps a lot of our women in exporting to the American market. So my role there is to provide an advisor, a financial inclusion advisor. So we are always at the pulse of these women entrepreneurs. So that's how they come to know of us. And then the other question was,
performance of your the portfolio performance, 60%. How
Yeah.
are they performing?
I'll get to that.
So quickly,
Yes.
quickly, so that
Yes.
we can-
On business plans, we know business planning can be intimidating, but the government has made it easy for our people. We have a sister agency by the name, the Local Enterprise Authority. This agency provides business advisory services to entrepreneurs, especially startups. So they provide business writing services free of charge to entrepreneurs. And also in-house, we have what we call business plan forms. We ask simple questions, and by an entrepreneur, by answering those questions, is writing a business plan. And we have these forms both in English and our national language being Setswana, as well as in Braille for the blind and partially sighted. And then on how do we prepare entrepreneurs before disbursing? We provide what we call pre-disbursement training. This is where we offer basic financial literacy training for our entrepreneurs. The length of training depends on the level of knowledge of the entrepreneurs. And since most women entrepreneurs are sole enterprises, we try to make our training hours as flexible as possible. We train over the weekend and after hours so that we can cover as many entrepreneurs as possible. And then we also share the role of training with our sister agency, the Local Enterprise Authority. And then on the success of the portfolio, I'm happy to say women pay better than men. So that being said, our women portfolio performs much, much better than the other one. And especially the micro, there was a point where pre-COVID, we had a repayment rate of around 105%. This was the informal sector, women-owned portfolio. And then on whether the interventions that we offer the women, is it too much? Yes, it might be a bit overwhelming, but we try to be as flexible as possible, like I said, training over weekends and after working hours. And then the types of loans that we offer, it varies. We have short-term facilities, we have long-term loans, we have guarantees and everything. I hope I covered all the...
You've responded to most of the questions. Let's just go to Anna to elaborate on the collateral registry, how it works, and then the success. I guess that's the question.
Thank you. Just to elaborate on the secure transaction website, all the lending institutions do use it, even the commercial banks. The issue here is that not many of the women are familiar that there is such an website so that they could come in and borrow securing their movable properties. So that's part of the work we're doing with ICR, so we can do outreach program, do presentations in the different municipalities. There are 4 major groupings in Micronesia, so we had to travel by United to get to the others, but we do have branches in the main islands. And so by recruiting the gender specialists, since our loan officers are always busy looking at loans, the gender specialists will be out, doing outreach program to ensure that women are familiar not only about the secure transaction website, but the type of products that we offer, and to help our loan officers in mainstreaming our procedures to make it easier for women to come in and start improving their enterprises.
Okay, thank you. I think, Valence, you respond to the question on whether there is any deliberate attempt by the central bank to compel the banks to lend to women, because there was an experience from a wholesale lending institution. When they give funds to commercial banks, maybe they don't end up disbursing the funds for the purpose. I guess that's the question. Yeah, are there guidelines that you guys have put in place to facilitate, such lending?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Development financial institutions, there always be, they'll lend to women more than commercial banks because they have patient capital, they have long-term capital, and they can accommodate that risk and, try out something. So commercial banks are short-minded, if I might say. And in that instance, I don't compare them. Well, in this morning, we had a a discussion about social norms, gender social norms. These also have obstacles to learning to women, simply because, for example, mobility. Men are more mobile than women, gender in rural areas. Access to information. Since men can move around, they have more information. The literacy levels, they are different. So there are those structural challenges that have to be addressed with the public sector, and you don't address them in one day. So, and that's what we call de-risking, and that's what the commercial banks tell us. They tell us challenges A, B, C, D. Can you help us address these challenges? And that's what de-risking, and you de-risk over time. But even during de-risking, banks will come out and discuss with banks that you have to be deliberate. Can I see gender-sensitive, women-centric products that meet the needs of women? Stop asking women collateral. Ask, I like the idea of cash flow financing. Stop asking about credit information. Someone has not worked with the financial institutions. Can you assess her cash flow and assess her business and stop being lazy, bring collateral? So that's a discussion that we are having, and the main achievement is having this discussion. Central banks used to focus on stability. So long as the sector is stable, we are done. But now we have this continuous. Actually, we've actually called upon every financial institution to appoint a gender champion that we meet every quarter to discuss these challenges. And it's like name and shame. We even applaud those that have developed products. So, and that competition, that urge, it trickles a kind of thinking that I need to think differently, I need to do things differently. And we think we need to see progress in the next 5 years. So, I heard that you said, there was no progress. I see some bit of progress, not at the pace that we want it. And I believe what we are doing, even this discussion we are having, will trigger some progress going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to believe that we are not running time. Do we still have time to? Okay, maybe can we take further comments from the audience? Let's have contribution. Okay, let's take a further contribution. Okay, she wanted to ask question before. Let's take a comment or question.
Thank you very much. My name is Chennai Mukumba with the Tax Justice Network Africa. I just had a question for the Bank of Rwanda. I was really interested in the way in which you're trying to incorporate particularly women that are in the informal sector, given that this is where most of them are on the continent. My question was just around the saving groups that you made mention of. How effective are they? What percentage, for example, would you say of the informal sector that you've been able to access through these? And also secondly, in your use of NGOs, I think you mentioned a few international ones. Are you also working with local NGOs as well in order to acquaint these women with the services you're providing?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a follow-up question to what my friend from Kenya has just raised. And this is in regard to how the formal financial sector or the banking sector sees the informal sector. To me, using the same products, using the same policy to reach smallholder farmers who are mainly women in rural areas. I work in agriculture, so you can guess I'll talk mostly about agriculture. Is like using a chopper to go fishing in the lake. There's no way that will work unless we want to meet them at the point where they are and develop tools and mechanisms that will be able to attract them. For instance, this is in the case of Rwanda. If you are working with 1,000 women, I mean women groups, and I'm using women groups because women are the best at forming groups and sticking to them, savings groups. 1,000 of them within the country, each of them saving $5 a month. $5 is 5,000 francs. And each group having 25 members. That will give you about $3 million US in a year. And this is not a scenario painted from just anywhere. It's something we've worked with. I work with NGOs, And I know that we've achieved that. But the problem is we always develop tools assuming that the women need loans, yet they need other products that can safeguard their money, that can keep them away from the husbands who may want to drink it, that can keep away from the tapping whenever there is a family need, that they can hide so that they are not tempted to buy their wrappers. They need savings, they need investments, but they are informal. How are we shaping our products to be able to reach the informal sector using informal tools that are already in place? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Well, these informal saving groups, I agree with you. It's so hard to approach them and work with them in the traditional way the banks work. But what we are doing at the National Bank of Rwanda, we set up a strategy to digitize informal saving groups in partnership with the largest NGOs, and the largest NGOs, Care International, World Vision, because they have a big portfolio of these saving groups, and they have established a relationship. Actually, we didn't want, because they didn't know us, because once you go as a regulator, they say, you're coming to regulate us. They can even disband everything. We pass through someone, these are NGOs that have already established a relationship with them. And I agree with you, we are talking about lending, but intermediation is two sides. It's saving and borrowing. Sometimes when you save enough, you don't even need to borrow. So we always focus on the borrowing, but the lending and the saving. So one thing observed during COVID-19, when there were shutdowns, these informal saving groups, some of them stopped working because ideally they have to convene physically, because they didn't have any technology to send money when each one is at home. And this is a challenge, in the modern era where they have mobile phones and have mobile wallet accounts. Why don't we establish, a platform where they can send money? And now a challenge is a unique account, because if you're opening a mobile money account, use your ID. Now these are informal groups. They don't have a business registration number. How do you address that? And we approached some fintechs that have now tried to digitize them. And once you digitize them, now you can sit at home and, send money to the group without, going there. It requires for a loan, then the head of the loan approves, and then she gets money without moving to that physical environment. And now once you digitize this process, you're capturing a digital footprint of the transaction. A woman has been borrowing from this informal saving group for the last 5 years, borrowing and paying back. This information, once it's captured somewhere and probably shared with the Credit Reference Bureau, banks can leverage this information and say, give us some small amount of loan. So that's the approach we are seeing it. We're creating this digital journey, this digital footprint, and it's a strategy we're working towards it to see, if we can offer them some platform for, saving and borrowing digitally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think time is really against us. We don't have much time. Otherwise, this is a conversation that can take very lengthy, because so many of us will be interested to make contribution. But we are in the final stage of our distance. Let me take comments finally from the panelists, and then we'll call it a day. Mr. Lawani, what's your last parting word on the discussion? But if I may ask a direct question, I know that SMIDAN in Nigeria, you have a couple of development banks in Nigeria. Is there a collaboration between SMIDAN and some of these development banks? Because yours is a support kind of institution. Just briefly, and we take last comment from each other.
Yes, thank you so much, Cyril. We have some few DFIs, and as an agency of government in the space of developing the MSME space, we work closely with some of them, but we've not been able to hit the nail on the head, because what we expect is not what we are getting from most of them. Most of them, they are into sort of wholesale lending, and there's a gap between what they give out to commercial banks and what the SMEs are ready to take. But my parting word here would be, if we can find a way around removing the human factor and digitizing the processes for access to loans so that there should be a fair playing ground for women to access funds. Then finally, the sharing of information, data exchange between organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chitundu, can we have your last parting word on innovative solutions, products and services? You know.
Okay, thank you. I think in today's day, we need to remember that the financial sector is very cardinal for growth. And the innovative products that are, we've been talking about innovative products, Cyril, and we've talked about the fact that there are products on the market. Now, we need to ensure that there is uptake for those products. So we need to establish why there is no uptake for those products, or why there is reduced uptake than anticipated. And those are the challenges that we then need to begin to address. If it's products, if it's issues related to securitization, what are we doing towards curbing that challenge? If it's issues related to locations, and some countries are massive and there's vast distances between one point and the other. So ensuring that you establish products that are also related to jurisdictions, and also areas, certain localities are very specific to certain projects. For instance, if it's a project if it's a product for aquaculture, the best place to anchor a project like that is probably in areas that are water prone. So ensuring that you're responding to challenges and not having one size fits all products, that's also very important. But as a parting shot, I hope you'll allow me to give my last remarks, of course. Okay. I think mine is also just to applaud the ICR and just commend them for the amount of work that they're doing on the African continent. When we received the technical assistance from the ICR, I thought that it was just the 4 countries that were being supported. But to be in a room filled with organizations that are all being supported in different ways by the ICR is truly commendable. So yeah, kudos to the ICR.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we have your parting word?
I just gave
Me?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. My parting word is that although we have products, it's not enough. We need to tailor it in order to bridge the gap between the lending to women. And that's why we really appreciate what we're doing with ICR. Now they're helping us in doing data segregation in order to allow us to analyze what the issues are, to enable us to actually improve our services to women. And our next step with ICR is we're focusing on monitoring and evaluation to make sure that it's working and that it's impacting what we're wanting to do in terms of the services we have on the books to provide to women. And hopefully that will be improved in the years to come. And thank you, ICR, for bringing me here. And I'm very happy to be in the continent of Africa, Rwanda, for the first time in my life.
That's good.
Thank you.
So, Oti, can we get your parting word? And then to you, Valence.
Okay, my parting word would be to my fellow DFIs. Don't just focus on financial products. For us to develop entrepreneurs, especially startups, we need to also offer technical assistance. That is the key that has worked for us over the years. Thank you.
Valence.
Thank you. My parting word would be, gender neutral products will not help us improve. We need women-centric products, and we need to think differently. And in achieving that, the public sector has got a role to play in terms of de-risking and addressing the social norms that we discussed this morning. In the private sector, the banks have got also a role to play. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this has been a kind of robust conversation. I know the time was very short for us to really exhaust all the points, all the issues that we're supposed to have touched on. But a number of innovative solutions have been highlighted. Guarantee is one of them. I know for those of us that are within the African continent, the AFAWA and the African Guarantee Fund have put up a pool of funds to see how they can go de-risking the lending to SME. The asset registry is also something that we have to look at. Then the need for research and development, really in terms of the product, may not be universal. Within our environment, certain products and services that we deploy may not be applicable to another environment. So the need for research and development, looking at our product, is also very, very important. So on this note, I want to thank the panelists and to the colleagues on the other side. It's been a very fruitful and engaging conversation. I believe that we'll continue this conversation even as we leave this very room. Thank you very much, and thanks to ICR for the opportunity to be here. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the moment where we would like to collate some thoughts, some reflections, and just come to that moment of going away without understanding what we are, our responsibility should be. It's been a wonderful 2 days. It continues with the trainings, of course, but we thought it essential to have those last few, ideas, opinions, and recommendations. So before we ask you to go off to another coffee break or ask you to go off to the trainings, we'll have my dear brother here, Eugene, will moderate a last panel, so to speak. It's really important for us, please, to fill the evaluation forms on the table, kindly. It's the only way we can improve what we're offering. It's the only way to do whatever we did here better. So I'm kindly asking that before you all move to your chosen next session, which may be the training or networking, please do us a favor of filling out the forms. And if there are any French-speaking colleagues, mes sœurs et mes frères francophones, est-ce que vous avez besoin de l'évaluation en français? L'évaluation en française? Ou bien c'est bon? It's okay. Oh, excuse us, Madame Bilingual. It's okay. Yes, Madam. Est-ce qu'il y a des autres qui ont besoin de l'évaluation en français, s'il vous plaît? Vous avez déjà fait? Merci beaucoup. En anglais? Mes félicitations. En français? D'accord. Okay, so I think the business of evaluation forms is ongoing. And Eugene, somebody lost there must be a phone or MacBook socket. I need a new one, so if you don't want it, but if you don't want to buy a new one, please pick it up from me. And I'm not joking, I'll take it home. So please, if you left your plug, your MacBook or your iPhone, it's surely not an iPhone 15. This one has an iPhone 6. So if you've left it, okay, let me stop being silly. If you've left it, kindly, it's with me, kindly. And yesterday, somebody also left their glasses. It may be with Nadine, so please, if you've left your socket, it's with me. Eugene, please, over to you.
Right, thank you.
Is it yours?
It is time for us to just have our final evaluation panel, just to be able to look through, the thoughts in terms of how the two-day event panned out. And even before I do that, I think I'd like us to settle in the room so that we can do this real quick.
I'm sorry, Eugene.
Yes.
Pardon me. Forgive me.
Yeah.
Very important announcement. The bus, for those of you who are not participating in the training, the bus will leave the premises at 4:15, 4:15. And for those of you who are leaving at 4:15 and who are funded participants who haven't secured their per diems, Nadine is in the room and you may do so. So kindly, please remember to do it. If you are leaving at 4:15, please collect your DSA. If funded participants only, collect your DSA if you haven't got it. But if you're staying for the training, then this doesn't apply to you. Eugene, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. All right, so allow me to bring to the stage my panelists who are just going to help us to review the 2 days. It's going to be very brief, around 15 to 20 minutes or less, just to be able to get their perspective on this. Please, let's put our hands together for Junior Lodge, Assistant Secretary General, Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. Let's give him a round of applause as he joins us on the set. Junior is coming. All right. Okay. All right, let's have Paz Velasco. Of course, she's the head of Sector Investment, Climate and Trade at the European Commission. Thank you so much. Right. And then also joining us is Mankla Sankoloba, chairperson of the OACPS Business Forum and representative of the Botswana Exporters and Manufacturers Association. Let's appreciate her as she comes one more time. Thank you very, very much. And then Yasmin Galol, who's the technical lead for Development Finance Institutions, ICR Facility. I love this because I usually don't appreciate moderating manuals. And for this event, I think it's been really great. And Junior has had a very challenging moment being the minority on the group for that matter. But thank you very much for taking that with grace. I want us to now just review this particular 2 days. It's come down to the last day now. And maybe if I can start with you, Paz, just your thoughts coming from where you sit, the organization represent, what comes to mind, especially from what we've discussed, the activities you've seen, the remaining training, the two trainings that are up, how would you sum up this particular conference in your own words?
Thank you very much, Eugene. So I think this has been an amazing 48 hours, very intense, but very interesting. I think the organization of the seminar has been great in terms of covering a wide range of areas, but addressing the different aspects in a pragmatic way. I mean, we have been able to talk about policies, about pragmatic approaches to the implementation of these policies, but also about relevant issues related to these policies, such as, for example, the need of increased financial inclusion for women. Of course, the gender-based violence. I don't know how to qualify this because it's not the issue. I mean, it's a terrible thing about gender-based violence. The need to increase data, the need to inform policies based on data and monitoring the implementation of the policies. So I find that in these 2 days, we have been able to cover relevant issues and in a very creative, innovative, and pragmatic approach. But I would go beyond that. I think, for me at least, what I take home from this is the possibility of having shared with you all, realizing, first of all, that we come from 3 different regions, 4 regions if we count the European Union, but we share the same challenges, we face the same problems, and we can share our experiences to improve the way we are dealing and we are addressing these challenges. And I think this is very positive. And on that, I would take back home not only the learning, but mostly the networking that we have been able to create here and that we would like to further replicate in the future. So as European Union, you are cutting me?
I cannot dare do that. Just go ahead.
Yeah, because I saw a couple of times that you were, and I was like, I'm taking too long. So you tell me. I mean,
go ahead.
We are family here. So
please go ahead, yes.
So I would say that we need to take home that positive thing that now we know that we have friends doing the same things that we are trying to move forward in our home countries, addressing the same challenges and facing the same difficulties in moving forward, and how we can connect with these practitioners of women economic empowerment and learn from others. And on that, I would like to also mention that we have been discussing with the ICR team on the possibility of going beyond this conference and creating a network among all of us, among practitioners on WEE, and sharing experience and the possibility of, in 2 years' time, if you have a problem and then you remember, I remember in Tuvalu, I heard something, they were doing the same, or in Jamaica, Princess were mentioning something about the custom union, let me see how we can, so with this network, how we can, in 2, 3, 4 years' time, still be connected and still be working together for the promotion of WEE.
Yeah, now I'll cut you short, sorry.
Okay, and now, yes, do I have the possibility to talk later? Or this
Yes,
is my only turn?
there's time for us to talk later. You come back to intervene. I think we can start a WhatsApp group for everybody who's come to this conference, right?
So WhatsApp group maybe is too difficult to manage. I mean, I don't know for you, but I'm already fed up with the class and, you know, the kids WhatsApp group. I mean, but we're thinking more of a professional LinkedIn website or, I mean, ICR team, they are already putting their mind together to think how we can create and mobilize.
Keep people together, a community.
Yes, but WhatsApp maybe is too,
We say no. All right. That's done. Mankla, what do you take back in terms of your reflection? You could pass the mic to her. Yeah. I would love to hear your reflections of the past 48 hours. Should be on. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Director of Proceedings. Has been an eventful 48 hours, as Paz has already said. And I think she spoke it all. She it's difficult to speak after her because she touched on all the critical points that actually happened throughout the 2 days. So I think from the private sector especially, it has been very insightful, especially in terms of where do we go from here? Because the private sector is the one on the ground going through stuff. And when you hear a financier saying, I have the money, when you hear a technical supporter saying, I'm available to support you as the private sector, this is something that we'll take back home and say, where do we go from here? Because there is now a clear roadmap of where we can get help to be able to be facilitated better. And of course, there were other things that were said, which as the private sector would create a knot in our stomach, like, oh, okay, so this is real. Because you look at the challenges that the private sector, especially the women, are going through, then you wonder, with all these interventions that are beautiful, where are we getting it wrong? But then again, in the presentations, it came out clear. The World Bank also said it earlier that implementation has generally been a big problem, a big challenge. And hopefully, as we go back, we'll really look into how do we pragmatically implement all these that we are talking about. And also, I heard from Sierra Leone earlier, they were talking about accountability, scheme. And that is something that we lack in terms of who makes you accountable for non-implementation. So I think I'm going to have chat with Sierra Leone after this meeting to just get to know more about their accountability scheme.
Interesting. Yasmin, I want to give you the microphone. And I know most of the times it's hard to ask the examiner to examine themselves and give them a score, a mark. But I'm going to do this anyway because I can right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the success of these last 48 hours and why?
There are so many sub-questions in your questions. Which aspect exactly do you want me to rate? Do you want me to rate all the interesting discussions that happened during the sessions and also in the rooms, in the corridors, at lunch? Yeah. Do you want me to rate how smoothly this conference was organized?
I think you're already answering the question. Well done on that.
Do you want me to rate how nice the food was? Yeah. Do you want me to rate how organized the ICR facility was in providing assistance to all the participants for any problems they might have encountered. So many things I could rate. I will not answer this question. I will just leave you to imagine how I am rating this conference.
Can we give a round of applause? That was a very smartly answered, smart way to answer that. And I'll leave it at that. And I'll go to Junior. Junior, I want to hear your reflections. It's now down to the last day, of course. Not the last in terms of these conversations going on, because we would end them in these four walls, but we must continue talking. We must continue reflecting. We must continue seeking for actions on the key items that came to the conversation tables. But what are the reflections that you're leaving this conference with as we all go back to where we came from?
Okay, let me start with the first night that I arrived here. I got a haircut, and if everyone knows that going to the barber shop is more than an experience, it's also an opportunity to learn. And in a way, it neatly framed this experience, where, for example, I learned from my barber that a word that I had understood, which is safari, does not mean what I thought it meant. A safari is not a place where you see wild, exotic animals and you roam around in a four-wheeled vehicle. A safari is a journey. And that's what I learned from my barber. And this has been a journey, and an important one. One of the things that clearly emerged is in terms of just some basic facts. So we've understood the gap in terms of women economic empowerment. There was 2 data points that were given. One was this $20 trillion figure, but the other one, which in a way probably is even more cogent, is in terms of the World Bank suggesting that the gap is 20%. So that's rather significant. And it suggests that we have opportunities in terms of addressing this with some urgency. We understood far more in terms of the need for resilience. And as part of that resilience, opportunities to generate not just jobs, but protected jobs. That's something that I registered. The opportunity of breaking down barriers in male-dominated economic sectors by just recognizing some of the challenges that women face. So there were some important, let's say, nuggets of just basic information, which I understood. But I also understood the setting, in particular, the need for us to have evidence-based analysis. When I hear PAS, by the way, it's as if we're 2 old couples. We complete each other's sentence, because actually the points that she made were exactly things that I had thought of without us, of course, discussing directly on this. But there were also some powerful and important and inspirational testimonies. And I think it is important that we couple the raw data, important as that is, with these testimonies, because these testimonies reflect lived experiences and were delivered with such passion and urgency that it commanded not only our attention, but invited us to act. So if I might just itemize a couple that I remembered. Nigeria in terms of gender-sensitive industrial policies, the DR in terms of care policies, but also institutional mechanisms to promote women empowerment. Kenya in terms of child care initiatives that are scalable, and of course also the power of collective action. Jamaica, my own country, very inspiring in terms of the work being done by the Jamaican Customs Agency on safeguarding women and the guidelines and policies surrounding that. Côte d'Ivoire, monitoring of policies affecting women's empowerment. Afrobarometer survey on attitudes of gender-based violence, and Mozambique's Women in Mining Initiative, Rwandan private sector childcare, the ICR's facility in terms of gender audit tools and methodology. So these were all very inspirational, and I'm sure there are far more, but I just wanted to recognize the power of that testimony. Of course, again, policies are important, or the setting is important. The testimonies are important because they also empower us. They show us a way forward. So of course, the challenge then is how can we propagate them? This is where ICR comes in, but also not just the ICR. I think I'd mentioned in my first opening salvo that there are 21 private sector development programs that we oversee along with the European Union. So how can we propagate this knowledge and feed it into other initiatives that we are having? And these are not just about, let's say, private sector development, but these are also in terms of some of the partners that are here. So whether it is GIZ or the World Bank with whom we implement other programs, how can this experience, this knowledge, this wealth of experience be channeled into the programming of other initiatives? The final point that I'll make is a pitch to our long-standing partner, the European Union. So we recently renewed our marital vows by signing the Samoa Agreement. This is a call for not only recalibrating our work, but also to summon, let's say, more innovation, more urgency, more transformational endeavors in terms of making sure that we support sustainable development in our countries. And here, we can imagine, again, benefiting from the experiences and testimonies that we have heard during this 48 hours to feed into our interventions on women's empowerment within the context of Samoa. I have a tendency of saying final, but my final element is in terms of we need to honor the spirit of Kigali. What I have seen in my brief foray in this city is that the names of streets are KN. So I see KN6, KN7. So that means we should establish the KN, the Kigali network. And because, wait for it. Because this is women's economic empowerment, we can dub it WEE KN. I'll end there.
Yeah.
Weekend.
Thank you. Pass the mic up to here, because I want to take the final round now, and just to hear commitments now. I know some have been alluded to, but I want to hear from where you said, Paz, what is the commitment of the European Commission moving forward? If we are to have another investment climate reforms for Women's Economic Empowerment Conference 2.0, what would be your commitment to that? Or, overall in the conversations that have been coming out of here?
Should be on now. Yeah. Hi, can you hear me? Yes. No, because it is red, but it's green. So anyway, yeah, it's a bit confusing. So as European Union, we are fully committed to promote women economic empowerment. This is at our DNA. This is part of our values. This is who we are, and this is how we want to be. Furthermore, moving ahead to become more and more a gender equality society, and to work with our partners, so with you, to promote also and to support you in achieving and moving ahead on this gender equality. We will have, ICR is one of the many programs that we have on addressing women economic empowerment. This is one of the most relevant, of course, but we have many programs at national level. So in your home countries, we are, I'm pretty sure, implementing programs on private sector development addressing women economic empowerment. And we have also at regional level different programs, and at global level, such as the ICR that we consider more or less, because it's ACP, so it's a very relevant three regional program. So we will continue. I mean, this is one of our top priorities, and we will be still here to work with you, to join our hands and walk the path towards women economic empowerment, full women economic empowerment together. So our commitment is 300% for next weekend Kigali 2.0 conference. We will first need to ask Jamila and ICR team how they see it in next year, maybe in a couple of years. So we let the team rest. Yeah. But we find this kind of conference are very useful because we can bring together our different experiences that we are having at national level.
Interesting. Martha, what's your commitment moving from here when we go back home? Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. I think, first of all, let me appreciate sincerely ICR and partners, OECPS, European Union, of course, for the kind extension of the invitation to the Business Forum, OECPS Business Forum. And OECPS Business Forum is a 78 member state private sector membership. And of course, there's about 38 of them in this room. There's many others who are not here, whom of course we are committed to sharing information that we've insightful information that we've gathered from this meeting, and make sure that they are also up to date with what the discussions were about. And of course, with the information that we get from here, we will forge, especially one of our pillars is centered around women, youth, and people with disabilities, one of the pillars that is founded for the organization. So we are committed to continue with the advocacy, especially on the implementation, and also make our members aware of the programs that are offered through ICR. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want now to end it. Oh,
we swapped positions.
Okay, yeah, of course. Actually, that was the plan. That she was the one to actually have the final word. But thank you, because at least like minds, great minds think alike. I think that's the word. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. A big kudos to the ICR facility and the team headed by Stefan. I don't see him, but this has been awesome. Yeah. Don't worry, your moment will come shortly. I'm not trying to steal Yasmin's thunder. No, but it would be remiss, I'm not trying to be flippant, but it would be remiss not to acknowledge the team's effort, because as Paz said again, this has been a superlative experience where I've learned considerably, and my takeaway would be hopefully that something can be crafted where we just recognize the imperative of action, but we also can just cite some of the experiences that have been expressed in this room as a way to galvanize even greater work, scale up the effort. And hopefully, on the 5th, today is the 49th, today is called OECPS Day, because 49 years ago, on June 6, 1975, the ACP group was founded. Thank you. I'm hoping that on the 50th anniversary of the OECPS, in a year's time, we might be able to record some considerable progress so that the comment, the data point that was made by the Vice Minister of the Dominican Republic, which is it takes 300 years to achieve women's economic empowerment, we can say that that is no longer the case. So that should be our summoning call. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yasmin, you have the last word. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, Junior, I actually wanted to refer to the same comment from the opening remarks from the Dominican Republic. hoping that with the discussions that have taken place in the last 2 days, we can contribute to bridging this gap and that it doesn't take 300 years to achieve an inclusive society. That being said, another way to bridge this gap is through technical assistance. So this is a last reminder that you can go on our website and apply for technical assistance from the ICR facility. A last reminder is that we have trainings available, 2 trainings taking place right now, but also free trainings available through our website, a peer-to-peer event on the care economy arriving in July. So we are continuing to work to increase the capacities of different partners to go towards a more inclusive society. And I will now want to thank the partners that made this conference possible. So first, the funders. We have on this stage with me representative of the European Union and of the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States. But please don't forget also the German Ministry for Economic Development and Cooperation. It's the other way around, but not a problem. And the British Council. And also thank all of you in the room who have shared insights, who have moderated discussions, who have asked questions, sometimes difficult questions. So thank you to all of you. Please give yourself a round of applause. And then I will ask my colleagues from the ICR facility, please come here, join me on stage. I want